Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of With Meg. This is hereby known as our second season of With Meg because we had a little tiny hiatus in amongst things over the last few months. And the main reason for that is because we sold our house, and our house is where the podcast studio was. And so we kind of had to pack it up and get it out of the way for showing the house and, photos and stuff like that. But then also we've just been moving into the rental property and just life has happened, and there is a lot going on behind the scenes with business and life at the moment, and it's all very, very positive. And I don't want to sound like a broken record when I say there's so much going on, but there has been so much going on. And one of the main reasons why the podcast did take a little bit of a break is because we did move house, so there's that. But what is happening behind the scenes at the moment is that the gym is turning 2, and so with that comes a lot of content creation and a lot of planning with the 2 events that we're doing for that. We're also doing a huge membership activation, which I'll get through in a second as well. But there's just been a lot of prep work for that happening too. Something exciting that has happened, and it's been and gone, but Project U was on, and now majority of the girls have wrapped up, and I loved Project U. I absolutely love it. I love one-on-one coaching. I think that it's such a rewarding opportunity for me to be able to sit down with these girls and go through nitty-gritty details of their day, of their week, of their life, and figure out ways that they can, be better, show up better, and make those positive changes for themselves. I feel like when we are spending so much time in the online world, it's really easy to get caught up in, having all of these U-boot methods and different fucking habits and stuff that you should be doing. But that's so, for me, Band-Aid approach. It just covers, the basics, the minimum kind of thing. What people really need when they go through these coaching experiences is that one-on-one experience and their hand held. And I'm so proud that we were able to offer that with Project U. The feedback that we had was, that it was an incredibly bespoke package that was offered. Their support was very one-on-one. They felt listened to, they felt heard, they felt cared for and supported. And I'm very, very proud of that. One thing that stood out for me with Project U is that people just want someone in their corner, and they want someone to go through this experience with them one-on-one and to hold their hand and to help them make improvements in their life and have positive changes in their life. And I'm very, very proud that we were able to provide that experience for them. My biggest piece of advice coming off the back of Project U and going through that 8 weeks with such an incredible group of women is that people, unfortunately, the tough love is that sometimes you just need to suck it up and do it and prove to yourself that you can do it and that you can, reap the reward and reap the benefit of doing the hard thing that you said that you wanted to do but haven't been doing for whatever reason. And the best thing for me personally when I do things like that is I feel so proud of myself, and I feel like self-pride is something that a lot of people don't get to experience in life because they don't step out of their comfort zone or they don't do things that they're, that is going to push them to that next level, and therefore they don't have that sense of pride within themselves. And I was actually talking to a client about this yesterday, and I said, I wish that I had a different answer for you to get to the gym as consistently as you want to. My answer is you have to just do it. And I know that that's so much easier said than done, but if you want to be someone that trains 3 times a week for whatever reason, of your own reasons, then you just have to train 3 times a week. And obviously there's going to be things that come up in life that stop you from doing that. But if you are consistently doing that when, life's not throwing you those curveballs, then when it does throw you the curveballs, it's going to be a lot easier to just maneuver around and just keep moving forward. One thing that I pride myself on is my resilience. One thing that I feel like a lot of people lack is resilience. And so that's been my biggest, coaching point for a lot of the girls was to create that level of resilience that people need to just get on with it and to stop, dwelling on things, to stop beating themselves up about things, to stop making excuses about things and just get the fuck on with it, because that's when you start to progress. Going off the back of me saying that there's been so much going on lately in life, there has been so much going on lately in life, like just the gym in general. We're turning 2, we've got so much to prep for that. I've had Project U one-on-one clients, we've been moving house, we've had a very heavy family situation happening over the last fortnight, and there is, there's just been a lot happening in every different aspect of my life. One thing that I keep hearing from people is like, oh, I would have had no idea that you're going through that, or, you can't tell that that's happening, whether that's people that see me face-to-face in the gym every day or whether that's people that see me online, whatever. But that's because I have that level of resilience that sometimes you just need to get on with it, and that is the reality of it, and not in a toxic positive way, but just in a way that what else are you going to do? Like, what else are you actually going to do? If you aren't, happy with something, you can either continue not being happy with it and keep going around and around and around and around in the same circle, or you can make a change and get the fuck on with it. And that is my mentality, and my method to my madness is just to get on with it. Because again, going back to that self-pride piece, once you do get on with it, you feel so proud of yourself and so accomplished, and you remind yourself the next time that hurdle comes up that you can get on with it, and then you do, and it creates this really positive loop. And your body and your brain remember that you can do that hard thing, that thing that you said that you couldn't do, that thing that you said that was annoying to do or whatever. You can show up and you can get it done, and therefore you can continue doing it in the future. A lot of the time, there is not a quick fix. There's not an easy out. And so my advice in that situation is to just show up and get it done, because the alternative is, again, that you just keep going around and around in circles. But like I said, the gym is turning 2. And it's so wild that the gym is turning 2. It is unbelievable. It is overwhelming. I feel really emotional about it for some reason. There's been a lot of content creation going into the things that we're doing for the birthday. We've got a massive birthday week planned on social media. We've got a huge, one of our biggest membership activations that we've ever done. We've got print media going out to 14,000 houses across our local area, and that's something that we haven't done before. And so there's been a lot of work behind the scenes to get that done. We have to think of the activation to start with, and can I say, I'll just say it. I'm the boss. I can say it. We're giving away 2 years worth of membership for our second birthday. So 2 years and 2 years is the activation, and I am pumped for that. So there's been a lot of work with that, but it's a lot going on behind the scenes with it, but it's very overwhelming and I don't know why I'm so emotional about it, but there's just been a lot of reflecting about it as well. When I go through all the content, or I think of all the things that we've been through over the last 2 years, I feel like I try to slow down and I try to reflect on everything that we do from time to time, and I'm very present a lot of the time, or I try to be very present a lot of the time, but it's just never enough when there's so much that gets done week to week, day to day. And so going through all of the things that we've been through over the last couple of weeks with putting the content together and seeing everything is just made me really emotional about it. But overall, I feel grateful. I feel really, really grateful that we have gotten to 2 years. I feel grateful for everything that we have achieved. I feel grateful for all of the lessons, because as cliche as this sounds, there's been no regrets, there's been no mistakes. They've all just been lessons in the long run. And I think that's something that, as a business owner, if you are listening to this and you own a business, or you are in that same realm, then learning from the things that happen and creating lessons out of them is very, very important. Again, kind of what I was talking about with my Project U clients, you can dwell on it and you can think about the mistakes that you've made and the regrets that you have and the things that you may have done differently. But at the end of the day, they're all lessons, and you wouldn't be where you are right now if you hadn't had those lessons or, those situations that you've been through. So, I feel overall grateful for everything. I feel tired at the moment. I'm really, really tired. I'm exhausted mentally. And I know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel though, so I'm not going to dwell on that too much. But super grateful for everything, for all of the experiences, all of the opportunities, all of the growth is just crazy. All of our team members that we've had over the last 2 years as well, present and past, they've all made a massive, massive impact to the gym in their own way, and I could not be more grateful for that. I feel like the team is, something that obviously the gym wouldn't be without them, and I feel like I have been on a little bit of a leadership journey over the last couple of months with bringing 2 new team members on board in Tara and Claire, and trying to navigate how we all work as a team and how I work as a leader, but also someone that needs to, walk the walk and talk the talk at the same time. I think I'll get into that in a little bit as well. But overall, super grateful for the last 2 years. We've got 2 epic events planned for our birthday as well, of course. Someone the other day was like, so are you doing 2 events because it's your second birthday? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly it, because that is exactly it. And then they were like, oh, so next year there'll be 3. And I was like, oh, damn it. No, there's not going to be 3 events next year. I might die from a heart attack. But anyway, behind the scenes, what is happening behind the scenes? We are going hard on our ads, on social media, and that has been a bloody learning curve in itself. If you deal with meta ads in any way, shape or form, you would know the absolute headaches that have gone on to get them up, but we're going hard on our ads and our social media marketing strategy as well. Claire has been supportive in that area, so shout out to Claire. But like I mentioned, we're finding our feet with a bigger team and with different roles in the business as well. One thing that I've been struggling with personally over the last couple of months is trying to convince myself that I'm not micromanaging the team. I find it really hard to I don't find it hard not to micromanage at all. That's not what I was saying. But I find it hard to not feel like I am, because there are, such specific ways that we do things at HQ, and I do have such specific and such high standards and high expectations of the way things are done. And so it's very hard to address things or expect things without feeling like a micromanager. So something that I've been going through over the last couple of months is, really solidifying my expectations with the team and the business, and having it just as that. They're just expectations and standards, and that's okay to have them. It doesn't mean that you're breathing down people's necks or you're, micromanaging or expecting things too much or anything like that. And it's okay as the owner of the business to, be across everything that's going on. So I feel like I often am like, oh, you're micromanaging them. But at the same time, it's like, the standard that you walk past is the standard that you accept. And I feel like I'm just convincing myself yet again that I'm not. But I hope that makes sense. But, I just remind myself this is the standard and the process that, we want to have in our business. And I feel like that's kind of what sets us apart sometimes, is the way that we do, facilitate our classes, the way that our facility is presented, the experience that our members have when they're in the gym, when they're outside of the gym. And, it's important to uphold that standard. So yeah, that's been like a big internal struggle lately. And I don't want it to sound like things have been dropping with the standards of the team. It's just like, bringing the new team on and keeping everything humming along nicely as well. Whenever you bring any new team member on board in any capacity, there's always going to be a little bit of like a teething period, no matter what type of business that you're in. And so because our business is so member driven, and it's so important that member satisfaction is 100% all of the time, then, it's like bringing new people in and then trying to keep the standard and trying to work with them anyway, it's like a whole thing. So that's been something that we've been going through as a team over the last couple of months, but I'm very, very proud of where we are and the journey that the girls have been on. If you're a member of the gym, you would know that Jelly is moving on, and that's super sad. It took me quite a long time to, even though I knew about 6 months ago that this was the timeline of things happening, because she's very open and very honest with me, when the time finally came for her to, give an end date, it was really emotional. And I feel like I was emotional. Obviously there's an impact to the business when someone moves on, but for me personally, it hit me really hard. And I think that that's because Jelly's been there since like 2 months in, and she's been through everything with me, like literally every single hurdle, every up, every down, she's been part of it. And to have someone that's been that rock for you for so long, in something that has been so big in your life, having them move on just really hit me. And so, yeah, I was very emotional about that. But I would be angry if she didn't move on from the business, because it's important for her to create that balance in her life, and she can't do that when she needs to be at the gym at 4 a.m. So, yeah. But something else that's kind of big that's been happening in the background as well is that we are, an overall goal of ours is to expand the business in one way or another. And, the end goal is to have a second location. It's important for me to have that location close by, but not too close that it impacts Sandgate's member base at all. So, it needs to be far enough away that we're going to bring in new members and not impact the current members, but not far enough away that I can't access it. Obviously, I'm not saying this with any level of ego or anything like that, but I am a big part of the brand. And so it's important for me to be able to be present with the brand and, in person. And so therefore it needs to be close by as well. So we have been looking to expand into the Peninsula area, and we actually had our eye on a few different commercial properties, and we're getting as far as talking lease negotiations with some agents over there with different properties, just to see, where we would land with it. And ultimately I made the decision only about a week ago that we would not be expanding into that area just yet. Although it's the end goal, I just don't feel like it's the right time to do that right now. We are about to grow the business in another way, and have something else happen that's happening along, at the same time. And so it just wasn't the right time for us to be doing everything. So that was actually quite huge for me to make that decision, because I am someone that is so go, go, go all the time. I'm always looking for the next thing. Like I said, it's hard for me to stop and smell the roses. And so it was like a massive decision for me to make, but it's not happening. It's just not happening yet, So what we are doing is something really, really cool. But I just can't share anything on it just yet. But what I can share is that it is a little, what can I share? It is a little, offshoot of Lift HQ, a little expansion type vibe of HQ, but it's not a group fitness gym. So what it is, you will need to keep your eyes peeled for that. But otherwise, what's next for With Meg is that we have some guests coming on. So I've got 5 or 6 guests lined up over the next couple of months, which I'm very, very pumped for. And those guests are friends and other women in business. And the reason why I wanted to get guests on is because, first of all, I find it very uncomfortable to talk to a camera on my own, believe it or not, because I could talk to a brick wall underwater. But when there's lights and cameras, it just freaks me out. But mainly because I wanted to provide an opportunity for us as business owners to chat and converse and, shoot the shit on things, because I feel like, when we're in the online world so much and we're surrounded by thousands and thousands of people online every single day and in person every day, this big bad world of business can get very, very lonely, and you can feel like you are constantly comparing yourself to somebody else, whether they're in the same industry as you or not. You go through this comparison loop, and it's awful and it sucks, and it's quite, overwhelming at times. And often I have these conversations with other business owners, and I leave the conversation being like, oh my God, I feel so much better about that. Or they'll message me and be like, thank you so much for that conversation or that chat, because I feel a million times lighter now, and I feel like I'm not losing my mind. And so I'm like, why do I not just do this on an ongoing basis? So we have got some very, very cool business owners coming on board. They're not only in the fitness industry, there's an array of industries coming on board, and they are in similar positions to me. And the conversation is just going to be super open, super free flowing, so that we can support one another through this crazy, crazy ride of owning a business. So that's happening over the next couple of months. We've got our first guest coming on next week. Her name is Emma, and she is a naturopath, and she's a great friend of mine. And I'm excited to have a conversation with her. She also is a supplement company owner, which is really, really cool as well. But otherwise, that's it for episode 6 or 7, I can't remember, but the first episode of our second season. That is it for that. I'd love to know any feedback that you have about this episode. I hope that it was insightful in one way or another. I hope that you enjoyed this one-on-one conversation in one way or another, and I can't wait to come back next week with Emma. Ta-ta for now.